Welcome back, everyone. Now, if you've ever walked into your bathroom in just your socks and unexpectedly stepped into a mysterious, highly stressful puddle right around the base of your toilet, well, you know exactly why we're here today. It is literally one of the most dreaded discoveries for any homeowner. So today, we're putting on our detective hats to investigate this very specific but very common household issue. We're going to use our source material to build a complete diagnostic explainer so you can understand exactly what is happening under that porcelain fixture, what it means for your floors, and how to logically approach solving it without losing your mind.
Okay, let's dive into our game plan. First, we'll uncover the hidden bathroom threat. Then, we'll profile the 3 usual suspects. After that, we're going to play plumbing detective, go over some quick DIY fixes, and finally, figure out exactly when to call backup.
Starting off with Section 1, the hidden bathroom threat, and why ignoring it is a really bad idea.
Look, before we even think about diagnosing the hardware, we absolutely need to understand the stakes here. I know it's incredibly tempting to just, throw a towel at the base of the toilet and promise yourself you'll deal with it next weekend, but looking closely at our source material, it makes one thing crystal clear. This is way more than just a daily annoyance. Sure, even small leaks add up and waste water, but the real danger, it's structural. Standing water from these leaks is basically the perfect fuel for mold. And worse, this moisture doesn't just sit politely on the surface. It actively wicks into grout lines and seeps deep down into your subfloor seams. Over time, that hidden moisture softens and rots the subflooring itself, so rapid intervention is absolutely crucial here if you want to protect your bathroom floor from long-term, totally invisible destruction.
Moving on to Section 2, the 3 usual suspects, finding the culprit. All right, let's break down the physics of this leak. Usually, it boils down to 3 main offenders. First up, we have the most common culprit, a failed wax ring or sealing gasket. This thing sits right between the toilet and the flange in the floor, and when that seal breaks down, well, water simply seeps right out of the base. Suspect number 2, loose mounting bolts. If these are loose, the toilet actually shifts slightly. When someone sits down, or even just when the tank refills, the whole toilet flexes, breaking that seal and causing a leak. And finally, suspect number 3 is a cracked porcelain base. Even a tiny hairline fracture, one that might look totally minor to the naked eye, can allow water to escape out the bottom under the weight of a user or the pressure of a flushing cycle. So let's get to Section 3, playing plumbing detective, running on-site tests. This 3-step diagnostic test is going to be your absolute best friend. Step 1 is literally the most critical part. Dry the area completely. Seriously, you cannot track a new leak if you're dealing with old water. Get it bone dry. Step 2, give the toilet a flush. And Step 3, watch exactly when the water returns. The timing of when that puddle reappears, that is the ultimate clue to cracking this case.
Now, interpreting the results of your flush test is actually pretty straightforward. If you see the leak appearing immediately after flushing, the source material points us directly toward a failed wax ring or seal. The water is basically escaping the exact moment it hits the floor flange. But on the other hand, if the water appears on a delay, like only after the toilet is actively used by someone, or specifically as the heavy tank refills with water, that strongly suggests movement. It means the toilet is flexing, and that flex is compromising the seal dynamically. Beyond just the flush test, you really need to use your eyes to look for specific visual clues. Are you seeing water directly pooling around the bolt holes themselves? Do you notice an expanding moisture stain on the floor that just kind of grows over time? What about any strange residue around the base? All of these point to ongoing, slow seepage that can further confirm your diagnostic findings. But, and this is a big warning from our source, do not attempt to just lift the toilet up to look underneath without being fully prepared for a project. Resetting a seal incorrectly will absolutely make the leak worse.
Okay, Section 4, quick DIY fixes, safe interventions.
If your diagnostic test suggests it's just minor loosening, checking the stability of the mounting bolts is definitely your first move. But stop right there and listen to this warning. Tightening those bolts too much can and will crack the porcelain. The source stresses that a true professional approach means confirming the toilet's movement is minimal before making any adjustments. Any corrections you make to those bolts have to be highly measured and incredibly careful. You do not want to turn a cheap gasket fix into a catastrophic I need to go buy a brand new toilet bowl situation.
So what if tightening the bolts doesn't work, and the evidence clearly points to a failed floor flange seal? Well, the most reliable fix is replacing the wax ring or gasket entirely. But you gotta be fully aware of what this actually entails. The source defines this as a messy, highly detail-sensitive task. You have to shut off the water, fully lift that heavy toilet off its base, thoroughly clean away all the old, sticky wax, and then execute a super precise realignment when you're setting it back down. Actually, scratch that, it's more like a zero margin for error realignment, because even small mistakes during this reset process can cause repeat leaks and just make your initial problem so much worse. Which brings us to Section 5, when to call backup. Knowing when to call a plumber. Look, it is vital to clearly define the boundaries of DIY repairs. Here is your escalation checklist directly from the source material. You should call a professional if the leaks are recurring even after your basic tightening attempts. If the toilet actually rocks when you are just standing nearby, you definitely need backup, because a plumber needs to check for worn components or flange height issues. And most urgently, if you see swelling, water damage, or feel any soft spots on the surrounding floor or subfloor, you must get help. Soft spots basically scream that the seal failure has been ongoing and hidden for a long time. Delaying repairs at this stage is only going to increase the scope and the cost of the structural damage. Getting an on-site assessment reduces that trial and error and ensures the fix actually holds, especially if the issue might be something adjacent, like a supply line problem.
And that brings us to the end of our investigation. We've mapped out the threats, identified our main suspects, run our diagnostic tests, and drawn a clear line between DIY fixes and professional escalation. So, I'll leave you with this one question to ponder the next time you spot a drop of water exactly where it shouldn't be. Is your subfloor trying to tell you something? Don't ignore persistent moisture. Follow the evidence and protect your home. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning out there.